Hey, what's up, guys? I want to show you one of the such a common type of mistake that lots of, I'd say, lower and medium rated players do against you when you play e4, e5, knight f3. So let's take a look at this one. I just played a simul in the Butcher team on Lead Chess. Of course, when you play simuls, you're white. I was white and my opponent was Chuck Bronson. Experienced player, 2200 blitz, 2300 rapid, pretty good one. But this time, he didn't know the line and I tricked him. So let me just show you what happened there. So after I went for e4, he played d6. It goes into the Peretz defense. I went d4, he played knight d7. As soon as you see this knight d7, you immediately know that you can all of a sudden go into the Philidor. So you play knight f3, and when they go e5, it's Philidor defense. So what is Philidor? e4, e5, knight f3, d6, d4, knight d7. You can also find this video on my channel. It's called Hanem variation, and you certainly have an approach how to beat it and what to do against it. I played the main line. I played the bishop c4, and my opponent went for c6. Believe it or not, it's only move. Believe it or not, it's the only move in this position. Why? For example, if they go knight g on f6, you just take on e5, and when they take on e5 by pawn, you play knight g5. That's a nice thing. Chuck didn't go for that. By the way, if you play bishop e7, you take on e5, and when they take by pawn, you play queen d5 and unstoppable mate on f7. So all things considered, they just have to go with c6. It gives them flexibility, opens up the center, takes away control of takes control of the d5 square. And at some point even threatens b5, harassing this bishop. I went for castles, and Chuck went for bishop e7. Once again, it's the only move. Once again, if knight f6, you first take on e5 and then play knight g5. Why? Because if you immediately, after knight f6, play knight g5, he's going to play d5. So, knight g on f6, d takes e5, d takes e5, and knight g5. And once again, if knight g on f6, d takes e5, knight e5, you take on e5 by knight and play bishop f7, winning at least the pawn, or if they take the bishop, you take the queen on d8. My opponent went for bishop e7, and I just played d takes e5. That's the best move. For example, Fischer, in his simul many years ago, played his opponent went for knight e5. Fischer captured, and after d takes e5, played queen h5. Both of these pawns on f7 and on e5 were hanging, and he won the game. So just like you see, it's not so easy for them to defend, and actually the current position is full of very cheap but very nice tricks. That's why they have to take by pawn, and I went for the best move. Here, Chuck was supposed to take by bishop on g5, but I already have to say that the engines, that the literature, and all kinds of coaches actually prefer this position a lot more for white. And it's quite reasonable. Why? Because after bishop g5, queen h5, no matter what they do and whether they play, for example, g6 or they just play queen f6, you just take on g5 and win the bishop pair. My opponent played the most logical move. It looked to him that he just had to defend the pawn on f7 and to make short castle. And here, I went for a very nice trick. I played knight e6. That's a very nice trick because all of a sudden you threaten the queen and pawn on g7. You threaten bishop takes h6 followed by queen h5. My opponent captured. I did capture on h6. If he takes on h6, I just play queen h5 followed by queen h6 and bishop e6 mate. So he had to go here. I played queen g4, threatening both, threatening on e6 and g7. Chuck went for bishop f6, which is practically the only move. I played bishop c8. And here, since he finally threatened to do something tricky, I brought my bishop back. Just like you see, I was up a pawn. I clearly had everything under my control. I want to play rook to d1 to even win the piece. My opponent played knight b6. I exchanged these pieces and here went for knight to d2. Probably even knight c3 was absolutely okay, or rook to d1. I played knight to d2, played rook to d1, and went for b3, limiting the scope of this knight on b6. After that, played knight c4, brought my knight back, created some weaknesses in his camp. I was up a pawn, and I managed to win this game very easily. So the moral of the story is when your opponents go with either Peart's defense, and then they turn into the Philidor with the knight d7, you play knight f3 and go into the Philidor Hanan variation. You play bishop c4, and remember, this is a very important thing. If they don't play c6, they're already very suspicious, almost close to be lost. So they gotta go with c6. You play castles, and only good players know for the following two moves: d takes c5 and knight g5. White is better, and that's what you have to remember in this short lecture. I'd like to thank to all of you for a nice simul on Lee Chess. We're gonna keep on doing these. Just join into the Butcher team on Lee Chess, and once again, please feel free to subscribe on the channel, to click the notification bell so you can always be informed about the videos that are just the latest ones. Thanks a lot and enjoy the content. Bye bye.